What's good, y'all? It's your boy D-Lou back at it again with another video. And in this video, DreamCon has just wrapped up, so I wanted to give my final thoughts and just give like an overall perspective or overall general reflection about what I thought about DreamCon, what my overall thoughts were, how I perceived it, you know, because this was my first DreamCon that I've ever been to. So I wanted to give my overall thoughts and give like a reflection of like a newbie perspective who just went to DreamCon. Just things that I experienced, general thoughts, reactions, how I perceived it, and just stuff I participated in, and just what I enjoyed. I don't think there were any parts that I didn't enjoy about it, but I know there's a lot of parts to where people were just like, it could have been better if they didn't have this, if they didn't have that, or if they had this or had that. So overall, just to give my 2 cents and just to give you guys my perspective on how I went, and because I went to DreamCon myself this year. So before we get into the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you share this video with a friend. Share this video with people that you may not know or that you do know, so that they can come over to the channel and we may grow the platform together and continue growing into the people that God wants us to be. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Let's get it, gang. So, DreamCon 2025 has officially wrapped up and it has ended, postmarking a new chapter in DreamCon history. So now it's just overall reflection about like what DreamCon means to people, and ultimately the synopsis that I was able to get from DreamCon is, well, let's start off first with what is DreamCon.
Welcome to DreamCon! Right up on my gut, and that's a life tag. Walk inside the booth, I just talk. ASAP, right up on my gut, and that's a life tag. Walk inside the booth, I just talk, I don't write raps. ASAP, right up on my gut, and that's a life tag. Walk inside the booth, I just talk.
You know, for someone that may not know, DreamCon is a social event, gathering, like networking event, to where like people can gather for the love of anime, for the love of video games, for the love of streaming, platforming, or YouTube, or just having community about these type of things that are seen as like, you know, odd or like sci-fi or like, you know, stuff like that, to where you might be looked down upon or like you may be perceived in a different light to other people because it's not mainstream or it's not popular or it's not cool. You may be looked down upon and be like, you a nerd, you a geek, you a oddball, you a square because you like anime or you like comic books or you like video games and stuff like that, or sci-fi. However, shout out to the boys at RDC World, because they have turned the narrative around to be like, hey, anime is cool, video games are cool, comic books, manga is cool, sci-fi is cool, to where now most of the stuff is mainstream now. Have you guys noticed that, like, you know, in the Macy's Day Parade, you're seeing a lot more anime figures like Pikachu, you're seeing Goku, you're seeing, you know, other anime figures like Luffy, you're seeing like a bunch of different anime like figureheads and like people in the big three, and just like, you know, most recognizable anime figures and anime icons and characters in like Macy's Day Parade, to where like Japanese cartoons and culture is heading over to mainstream in America now. But RDC World, they created a space, and I give them the most, you know, respect, because they created a space to where black people, and not just black people, you know, black, brown, Hispanic, Asian, you know, black, white, you name it, whoever, they can have a place to come to get together and have these type of topics and discussions and have a sense of community and camaraderie, to where they won't feel ostracized, they won't feel like they're navigating through life alone. Like, it's a 3-day event to be able to come together and have events like, you know, the dodgeball tournament, the basketball tournament, you know, to meet your favorite content creators, to have a gaming hall, an exhibit hall, panels, cosplay contests, and after parties, just so we can get lit together and have like a space and community to where we feel connected, and that we have other people who have the same interests as us. It reminds me of like a TikTok that I seen a few days ago, to where this dude, he didn't overly, but he just kind of said like, hey, I went to DreamCon, you know, not knowing anything about anime, And I went there thinking like, what the hell is this? You know, when he first walked through the door, he was like, what the hell is this? What are these people dressed up as? I don't get it. But that's the point that he was trying to make all along. He was trying to be like, hey, these people, I may not know what's going on, but I see that by the general sense and atmosphere of these people, they're coming together and being like, they have something in common, and they're locked in like this, you know? They're locked in because A, they like that show, or they may not like that show, but they agree to disagree, or they like that game, they like that anime, they like that comic, they like that, you know, cartoon or whatever. But it's the general sense of being like, hey, like, you know, the love that we have for these things is what brings us together, and we can express that love, you know, to a great level, to where they pretty much packed out Houston, and Houston was the place to be this weekend in the nation, you know? So DreamCon pretty much took over all of IG, it took over all of Facebook, it took over all of Twitter, you know, it took over all of TikTok, Instagram, you name it. And they got Megan Thee Stallion to come out, and she's a big anime and manga person as well, and influencer, and to where like I think she is collaborating with like the producers and creators of Boondocks to create her own anime, as well as RDC World. They're creating their own anime, which is like streaming in not July, but they're streaming on Amazon Prime. So it's becoming more pop culture and just like popular within mainstream culture now. It's not something to be ostracized, nothing to look down upon, or just be like, yeah, nah, if you like anime, you're a geek or a square, like we're not going to associate with you. It's just like, if you don't like anime, get with the platform, you know, like get with the motion for real. So that's what DreamCon is. It's a place to where it's a community to where, you know, all people from all walks of life, no matter where you are in the nation or even the world in general, you come together and express your love for anime, manga, video games, cartoons. And it's a place where dreamers make their dreams come true. You never know what can happen at DreamCon. They always have something going in, and that's what I appreciate about it. I love DreamCon for what it stands for. RDC World, you guys made gold with this one, so I commend you, and you have my respect and applause for that. So that's my overall consensus of what DreamCon is. But now I want to talk about my experience and my reflection about DreamCon. So I guess I'll start with day one. So day one ultimately goes to that Friday. I don't think I had to work that day. Yeah, I just finished off because I'm an educator. So I didn't have work that day because I'm a substitute teacher. So I was off, and that's when, like, you know, I was kind of just getting things ready for like my cosplay. You know, I signed up for a Super Smash Bros tournament and the Mario Kart tournament, and the Super Smash Bros tournament was held that Friday. So I was getting everything ready as far as like, you know, controllers that I needed to. I brought my trusty GameCube controller with me, adapters, and my Pro controller. Because here's a rule of thumb, at least for people interested in tourneys and all that stuff. If you want to participate in a tournament, as far as like big stream tournament, it's highly advised that you bring your own like controllers and stuff, own controllers and adapters. Granted, they may provide some on site, but you might not be accustomed with their, like, you know, the specifications of their controllers, and you might just feel like, hey, I want to use my own controller because it's a certain grip that like I'm used to having with my controller, and like it feels more at home, and I could do a better performance with that. Now, I wouldn't advise go rigging your controllers to where you can perform like some certain input to where other people can't do it, because that's cheating, and like cheating is very much looked down upon. But I will say, like, you know, for comfortability's sake, play honest and fair, bring your own controllers, so that way like you can be prepared for anything. Because they have rental places to where you can rent controllers, but like you gotta put up with the lines, which can be long, because you're also dealing with people who free play, you know. And that's what I like about DreamCon too, like it's open to casual and hardcore players. It's not just like, oh, like, you know, it's just hardcore, so like if you're a casual player you don't belong here. Like, no, it's welcoming for people of all skill levels, you know, all skill levels, and just competitive rates if you play just casual for fun, or if you take it competitively and like to turn up, you know. So I got there around 3 or 4, because I think my call time was for 4 o'clock. So I arrived at around 3:30 or so, you know, was able to walk down to the convention center. It was, you know, when I walked in, I definitely saw it was a lot of people, more people than than I was anticipating and expecting. But that's what kind of made me like, you know, be like, okay, this is a big deal, you know, just taking like that first step in and just seeing everyone, like the cosplays and the props and like the music and the vibe and the atmosphere. I'm just like, this is it, you know. So I navigated my way and walked my way down to the gaming hall, and then I got registered. And what I really appreciate, like, you know, with the registry team is like, you know, they have multiple different stations going up. Like they have one for Tekken, they have one for Smash Bros, they have one for Mario Kart, they have one for Free Play, they have one for Marvel Rivals, you know, Dragon Ball Fighters, Sparking Zero. Like they had enough stuff going on to keep multiple people entertained, and it felt like, you know, there was always something going on, you know. So my DreamCon experience was mostly made up of like video games, so like that's where I'm kind of going with this whole perspective and like reflection. Like it was just the video game aspects and like in that part, you know. So I got there, I was like, you know, I got to the booth that I was supposed to report at, and he was like, all right, bet you're here 30 minutes early, go walk around, have fun, come back here in 30 minutes and we'll get you squared away. Cool. So left, walked around the exhibit hall and just saw the vendors, and my rule of thumb for DreamCon, number one, come with a budget. If you don't come with a budget, you're going to drop a lot of money that you don't want to spend, you know. You're going to drop a lot of money that you don't want to spend, and it could be intended, unintended, but it could result you having a hole in your pocket and you paying for stuff and you're just like, I didn't plan on paying this much. But like once you see those vendors, you're going to be like, yeah, I couldn't resist it. So speaking of vendors and all that stuff, I did pick up some merch, but it wasn't for me. But my homeboy back in Cali, he wanted some merch from DreamCon because we were supposed to go together, but he had work. So I picked him up this shirt from One Piece. The shirt on the main ship. I don't know too much about One Piece, but I do know about the ship and everything. So I picked him up this shirt. He's a big One Piece fanatic, so I know he's gonna like this. So I'm happy to have got that for him. And the other shirt, which I know he's gonna like for sure, is drum roll please. Has Goku in the front, and then the piece de resistance, Daima Super Saiyan 4, and Goku just powering up into Super Saiyan 4. I really love this shirt, and I know he's gonna love it too. And I like what Daima, you know, how they interpreted their own different interpretation of Super Saiyan 4, trying to bring it into the canon, but it had its own bag of worms to be like, oh, like, you know, if he had that, why didn't he use it against Beerus, you know? And then I also got my girl some merch because she's in Japan right now doing an overseas study youth program right now. So I just thought of her and I was just like, hey, you know, I want to buy you some merch because, you know, I really wish you were here to experience it with me, but I know you handling your thing overseas, so therefore, you know, I thought about you and I just wanted to get something to remind you that you're on my mind while at the con, you know. So I got her some merch, and then I kind of was just like, okay, I think this is where this ends, because there were some posters that were low-key catching my eye, but I was just like, back away, just leave, and don't do any more damage to your pockets or your credit card, you know. Also, the shirts where I got the One Piece and Dragon Ball shirt, it was by these guys right here, by MDRN Nutaku. So I'll provide the link and the link for their website right here, but you can scan this QR code and this could take you to their Facebook, their Instagram, and their TikTok. So make sure you guys check these guys out. They make really good merch, good good shirts, good posters, all that good stuff. So back to the tournaments. So after the 30 minutes of just walking around, just seeing what the exhibit hall had and the vendors and all that, came back, and then that's when the qualifying rounds were. So came back, got situated, and for my DreamCon, like for the starting lineup for Super Smash Bros., my go-tos, my number one is Ganondorf, but I just didn't feel confident with Ganon that day, so I was just like, no, I don't think I'm gonna start with him. So number one was Ganon, number two was Ness, and he honestly was the MVP. Like somehow I got really good with Ness the past few months, so I was just like, Ness is gonna be like, you know, probably my starter. And then number three, it's interchangeable between Mewtwo and then maybe like Marth or Ike. So I would say that, and those are my starters for DreamCon. So my first match, we hit the qualifying rounds won with Ness the first round, and then I guess I got overconfident and cocky, and I was like, I can switch to Ganondorf, and then boom, lost with Ganondorf, and it brought me to like the deal breaker. It was best of 3. So the one that win 2 matches first, they move on to the next round. So I switched back to Ness, and then I was just like, okay, switch back to Ness and see what we can do. But I didn't want to be put in that close type of spot again. So did my thing with Ness, and then boom, moved up to semifinals. So did that, and that's when I kind of knew, like, started seeing some people, and I was just like, these people look interesting. And then I remember my opponent, he was just like, hey, do well, do good, but I will give you a piece of advice and a warning. That's the top Fox player over there. And I was just like, why is he here? But you gotta remember, DreamCon is open for everyone, so of course big leagues can come there as well and just see what it's about. So I remember, like, just seeing some dudes, and I was just like, hey, let's have a good match for my semifinal. And he just kind of looked at me, and he was just like, the quarterfinal, and he just kind of looked at me, and he was just like, and I was just like, that's how I knew I was gonna get the stuffing beat out of me in that round. So I just remember he didn't say a word. The next thing you know, once the match started, boom, like clockwork. Like, bro was on my butt. Like, he was whooping me, 2-piecing me, 3-piecing me. Like, I really couldn't defend myself. So next thing I knew, I was knocked out to losers semifinals. To loser qualifying finals. Quarterfinals. So I was just like, well, that just happened. And when quarterfinals happened for losers, I won that one and went up to semifinals, and then went up against the boy Lucky, and he rocked my stuff with Pichu. And granted, it's the most frustrating thing, because when you go up against a Pichu, you're like, he's inflicting damage on himself, so it should be fine, But no, dude was doing what he needed to do, and like, I had no defense to it, and I was like, bruh's good, So Pete, so Lucky, if you out there seeing this video, you the man. I really hope like you went far in the tournament, but sheesh, I had no counter to you. Checkmate was yours from the beginning. So I did that, and pretty much left and like got to see the different cosplays that was going around. I saw a lot from like ranging from Dragon Ball, ranging from Hunter x Hunter, from Naruto, from Inuyasha, and a bunch of different other animes. And for my anime, I went from Hunter x Hunter. I cosplay as the boy Isaac Netero, most specifically Isaac Netero from the Chimera Anarch, when he was in his like heart shirt and fighting Meruem. So that's why, like, I went as that, and it was very simple. It's his shirt and some shorts, and then like socks or whatever, and shoes. But like, the reason I went as Netero is because, he was like the pinnacle of humanity at that point, but like, he was losing his humanity while Meruem was gaining his humanity. And by the end of the match, he looked like the monster, and Meruem looked like the more human of the two. And in contrast with like Gon, Gon was like this human, happy-go-lucky kid, but then when he lost Kite, that's when it happened, and like the dam broke, and then Gon became a monster as Meruem gained his humanity. So that's why I like Isaac Netero, and then he had one of the best fight, probably one of, if not the best fight in the Hunter x Hunter anime. So that wrapped up day 1. And I kind of just went home after like, my semifinals match and lost, because I was just like, hey, I'm tired, I'm hungry too, because I hadn't eaten lunch. And it was like 6 or 7. I was just like, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm going to go home. Didn't see any friends that day, because I was just like, I'm tired from gaming. Let me just go home and then reconvene. So that happened, and then we fast forward to Saturday morning, wake up, and then I was just like, well, that happened for Smash Bros, but at least we have Mario Kart going on. So Mario Kart, from what I saw, I said that it started at 12, but I didn't look at the subsection where like my specific matches started at 1. So in my mind, I was running late, but realistically, I was running on time. So I rushed in there, and I was like, okay, I'm late. They're like, nah, bro, you're on time. Like, you're about an hour or so early. So got there, just walked around, played casual, met some dope dudes who were playing Smash Bros. And it was just genuine fun, Like, and that's what I appreciate about DreamCon and what they had, because they had an area for like, they had casuals, free play, and they had tournament sections. But you know, it was very warm and welcoming and inviting because you could literally just pull up a chair and be like, oh, like you guys have room for one more, whether it be for Mario Kart, whether it be for Mario Party, or whether it be for Mario, for Super Smash Bros. You could just pull up a cart and just start conversation and start playing with folks, and then that's how connections and friendships get started. So pulled up, played with some dudes until it was time for my match, and then came around 1 o'clock. I came back, and then that's when I started my matches for like the qualifyings for what's it called? It was either qualifyings or quarterfinals for Mario Kart. So did that, and then for the races and how they went for the first cup, I did second place for the first race, first place for the second race, second place for the third race, and then first place for the fourth race. So I got 57 points out of 60, and I'll include the screenshots in the video so you guys can see as well. So I did that, and I was like, oh, I'm on cloud 9, you know, this is going to be easy. Which I think overconfidence got the best of me as well, because the thing came from semifinals. When that happened, then it was the tracks were for semifinals was Wario Mountain, and I got 5th place, Baby Park 2nd place, and I think the only reason that like I got 2nd place on that one really was because of playing Mario Kart Double Dash. The third one was like the subway track from Mario Kart 8, and that's what screwed me over because I got 11th place on that. And then the next one was like Bowser's Castle on like the NES or SNES, and I don't have too much experience like playing on that one, but like, you know, I'm not one to make excuses. I just didn't like play that one enough, and then it resulted in me getting 9th place and then getting like 7th place in the tourney, and then top 3 advanced. So boom, I was out, you know. So after that I was just like, dang, I got semifinals for Mario Kart and semifinals for Super Smash Bros. But that's okay because you gotta remember, A, this was my first ever like official like big tournament ever, so you win some, you lose some, so I'm not too pressed about that. And then I think about it like this way, how Master Roshi put it when he was trying to teach Goku and Krillin, were just like, hey, there's always going to be someone better than you, but that's okay. Like, you know, this whole life journey is about self-improvement and self-betterment. Like, get to be the best version of yourself and never stop, you know, working and being stagnant, because once you get stagnant, you could lose your drive and motivation of like actually like wanting to see progress, and then you start taking tricks and shortcuts and excuses and being like, oh, I'm the best, you know, like no one can beat me, but like there's always someone better than you out there. So that's the lesson that I kind of took away from like DreamCon as far as the tournaments. And then for Saturday, that's when I was just like, you know, I'm done with DreamCon. I think, you know, not even done because I was hurt or like, you know, butthurt or anything, but I was just like, I'm tired, you know, I did everything I needed to do. Went out with some friends for Korean barbecue that night, and we linked and connected, and that was really dope as well. And for that day, I dressed up as Link from Breath of the Wild, most specifically from Tears of the Kingdom, because I really liked that his costumes there, at least from like the design and promo art. So I really thought that that was cool. And that's what I like about DreamCon too, like, you know, you'll see people like dressed up in these costumes and you're just like, hey, I like that costume, can we get a picture? And then boom, you already established a connection, and it leads to conversation, it leads to you guys exchanging phone numbers or like, you know, Instagrams and connecting and networking, and then boom, you made a new friend at the con, and something that you guys bonded over, whether it be, you know, anime or video games or like something that you guys like or whatever. But that's what I like about DreamCon too, like, you know, it feels like you're at home, you know, like if you're truly like an anime fanatic or like, you know, just like anime, whether you're like in a whole costume or whatever, or a whole get up, or if you're just wearing a t-shirt, you feel like you're at home and you're not ostracized. And I really appreciate the boys for RDC World for doing that. And it allowed like a space for like friends to get together and for new people to get together, because to be honest, I think over half the people at DreamCon, like half the people, they were new people, like they didn't even know each other. Of course, friends went to DreamCon with each other, but most of the people, they're kind of just like newbies, and boom, new relationships and new friendships were made at the con, you know? And this is where I want to go into, it's like talking about things that went good about the con and things that went bad about the con, at least from what I've heard. good about the con is like, you know, it was packed and sold out. I'm sure RDC World in Houston made their money for DreamCon, and that, you know, it was a success. I'm pretty sure like with the vendors and everything, you know, weekend passes sales and pass sales, I'm pretty sure they made their money and then some with hotels and like, you know, vendors and like panels and everything and premium badge upgrades, and those were like a nightmare to get, which I did not want any parts of that, you know. So they made their money for as far as that. And then things that like I guess some people didn't like, at least I saw this clip, I think I'll insert it in the video as well. I saw this clip where like, you know, the Qs, also known as the Bros, they were hopping at Omega Sci-Fi because they were hopping at the con because like they linked up and like met each other, and then like they got together and set their stuff out. And pretty much the synopsis was the dude was just saying like, oh, like, you know, like they always gotta do this stuff, like why can't they just keep that at college or like college parties or whatever, like you gotta bring this to the con for real. And like, you know, he was just kind of salty about it.
I don't know what the fuck going on. Why everywhere we go, niggas gotta do this barking ass shit, man? We is not in college. On my mama, we is at DreamCon. We is not at no fucking college. Always doing this shit. Take y'all barking ass.
I kind of get where he's coming from, because it's just like, bro, like let us have one place, like, you know, where you can keep the greedy stuff at home, you know, like you ain't gotta do it there. But on the other hand, you know, if you meet bros out there, you know, if you meet bros out there, like, you know, it's good to like network and like, you know, do that stuff, because they did it at last year's DreamCon, so like it's not unheard of that they did it, like, you know, that they didn't do it before. They did it last year, but like this year, I think most, like at least D9 people, they were undercover. But like that main instance, like, you know, it kind of just circulated a lot of traction. They were just like, we could have done without that. We could have done without that. Like, you know, we didn't need to do all that. But, you know, I see how some people are just like, like, you know, we could have done without that for the con. But I'm just like, hey, you know, if you do it, it's cool. But like, you know, let the main focus be about DreamCon, you know. Like, have your fun, you know, you connect with, network with bros and sorors and all that. But let it focus on DreamCon itself. So I think that was another contentious part too. And this leads me to like the last part of the last day. The last day I did not bother going to DreamCon at all, because I was just tired from like Friday, Saturday, and I was just like, I don't want to go. I would have worn like my Crollo shirt from Hunter x Hunter, but I just didn't feel like it that day. So I was like, this is where my journey ends as far as con. Told my friends, hey, let me know when you guys make it home, take travels, etc., etc. And then B, I was just like, I'm going to church, so like, you know, after that, I'm probably just gonna lay low. Probably do my video editing for like my vlog that I recently did. Don't forget to check that out. I'll link that in the subscription box. But I was just like, I'm working, so, you know, I'll probably just do that. And I didn't have like a genuine cosplay. But the reason I bring up the last day is because typically at the last day, they announce the place where they're hosting the next con. And it turns out that they decided to have, you know, the next con be at Houston again.
Next year's DreamCon is July 10th through July 12th. So make sure y'all get y'all tickets. Cause I'm telling you, they're gonna sell out fast next year. I'm telling y'all right now, because everybody online was talking about it ain't coming next year. So please do not wait.
Mark, where are we gonna be at?
Houston!
And I just find it interesting, like they're just like, oh, like it was lit this year, so we're gonna run it back. But I guess some people are just like, oh, like, you know, I wish they changed it up, whether it be in Atlanta or whether it be in the West, whether like, you know, in LA or San Diego. I would have been fine with a change of scenery, but I am not complaining about it being in Houston again, because that's literally my neck of the woods. It's right down the street, so that's completely fine with me. And another thing about like, you know, the whole thing as far as like, you know, ups and downs were like, they were just saying like with the dodgeball and like the basketball tournaments, they were just saying like, oh, you couldn't bring props in there, like, you know, if you had a bag, they were just turning people down left and right. I kind of get that, because like you can't bring that stuff in the stadium, but like they should have been aware, like, you know, most people, they're probably going to have their props in the deck, and that they should have had like an area where you could store your props while in the game. So I do get people's concern as far as that, don't get me wrong. So I'm not saying that, you know, they're wrong, they're right about doing that, nor are they wrong. I just would, they probably could have done better as far as like, hey, like you can store your props right here and we can keep track of it while during the game so you guys can enjoy the festivities, because most people who were there and paid for like this stuff, they didn't get access to it. So of course they're going to be frustrated and infuriated by it. But I understand their arguing points as far as that. But overall, from my DreamCon experience, I would give it a good 8 out of 10. Because, you know, even though I was just confined mostly to like the gaming hall and like the exhibit hall for vendors and stuff, it was still fun. The overall concept and premise of just like having a space to where we could be genuinely, authentically ourselves and connect and network for the love of just the sake of video games and making our dreams come true, it really resonates with me for real. So I really enjoyed my time at DreamCon. I'm definitely going back again. I'm really already thinking of some cosplays that I can do for next DreamCon. And if you guys were in DreamCon 2 this year and plan on going next year, let me know in the comments below. Let me know who you were for DreamCon this year and who you want to be for next year, so we can just bounce ideas off each other and get some conversation going as well. And just tell me your experience about DreamCon. I love to hear all about it. I love to hear your ups, your downs, your critiques about it, how it can be better, how they can improve on certain things, and like, you know, some certain expectations or like some new things that you want to see for the next con. But I think that wraps it up from my experience. It was really fun. I'm looking forward to it again and just kind of just riding the wave as far as like the TikTok and just the DreamCon hype, just so like, you know, we can keep it going, because I think anime should be more talked about and more normalized within our society, especially in the community, for black community, in the black community, and that it's not just like, oh, like, you know, that's some geek stuff or that's some lame stuff. Like, no, it's genuine, a work of art for real, and it should be appreciated and put some respect on its name. But I think that should wrap it up for me. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to share this video with friends and new people that, you know, who may be like, hey, if you want to go to DreamCon, check this guy out. If you want to know more about video games and his experience, check out D-Lou's channel, so that we may continue to grow into the people that God has designed us to be, and we are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God. Jesus loves you. Don't ever forget that. Once again, it's your boy D-Lou signing out. Have a good one. Bye.